Hi, I'm Keith, and welcome to week 24 of my weekly fitness vlog, Up the Peak. On the road. When last I left you, I said I was embarking on my adventure out west, so let's start at the beginning. Right off the bat, I was already 5 hours behind schedule because I had to do last week's vlog and finish it up before I left. Once that was out of the way, I was on the road. First pit stop, Niagara Falls, New York. Last time I was in Niagara Falls, I was well over 400 pounds and I didn't have a very good time. This is a picture of me with some friends from college that I went with. Walking around was painful. I had to sit down a lot. I held up the group a lot. It wasn't a whole lot of fun. I did not enjoy that trip at all. So I vowed to someday return to Niagara Falls. Well, on day one of the road trip, I made good on that. I returned to Niagara Falls. I didn't have a lot of time because I was 5 hours behind schedule. It was more of a quick sprint visit. I found a spot to park, grabbed the GoPro, rushed on down to the falls itself. Grabbed a few shots, like this one. And this one. And then it was a speedy return back to the car to get back on the road. I would have liked to have stayed longer, and if I wasn't 5 hours behind schedule, more than likely I would have. Onward with the drive. Now, the drive itself wasn't the most exciting thing, and then my car started acting up. Now, before I had left, I had everything checked out. Unfortunately, every time I went to start it, it was doing a lot of hesitating. And I thought, well, the starter's supposed to be good, so maybe it's the spark plugs. So when I got to Toledo, well, the borough of Toledo where my brother lives, I said I need to check out the spark plugs. But before I did the spark plugs, we had a nice fun day planned at Cedar Point, Ohio. I had mentioned previously in videos, I have not been able to fit on a roller coaster in well over a decade. This was my chance to see how I did. I didn't ride one roller coaster. I rode 7, starting with the Raptor, then the Blue Streak, then the Dragster, then the Iron Dragon, then the Gemini, then the Gateway, and finally, Millennium Force. It was amazing. Now, the first 2 roller coasters I went on, getting shuffled around the way I did made me sick to my stomach. I was like, holy crap, have I been like away too long? Can I not handle this anymore? I could fit, which was a great feeling. I apologize for the lack of footage there, but you weren't really allowed to film while you were on the roller coasters, and I was kind of nervous about filming on the way up to the roller coasters, but I did grab these screenshots off the interweb, so there's that. I had a lot of fun at the park that day. I ate like a king. I rode like a king. So Cedar Point was astonishing. I hadn't had that much fun in a very long time. We got back to my brother's place outside of Toledo, and I quickly changed the spark plugs so I'd be ready for the road the next morning. Unfortunately, when I went to crank on the car, the starter was now completely dead. The following morning, I went to a parts store and I acquired a new starter. I had taken out the old one before I went there. It didn't take a whole lot. Removed a bunch of stuff, got the old one out, brought it down so I could avoid the cord charge, got the new starter, popped it in, changed out the fuel filter, the air filter real quick, cranked right up, and I was back on the road. The second day of driving was uneventful, although I should mention, I did identify a leak in my transmission fluid. I had bought this sealant that I put in there, and I thought it was working for a little while. But on the second night of the drive, when I stopped in the rest area to sleep, I woke up and found a small puddle under the car. Miles away from anywhere, I decided to forge forward, which I did. The third day of the actual drive took me through Nebraska. This long, desolate highway of virtually nothing in each direction. The end of the journey, it got really hot in the car. I was just slathering on sunscreen. The air condition doesn't work in the Maxima, so it was like getting blasted with a hot dryer. But nonetheless, I made it to Cheyenne, and I made it to my friend's place. Let's talk about the fitness. I left at an altitude of 1,200 feet, and Cheyenne, Wyoming is set right above 6,000 feet. So right off the bat, my elevation is 4,800 feet higher than what it was. So I went down to the local parade field, and I wanted to do a little test to see how I did. So each lap around the parade field was 1.3 miles. So I walked 3 of those, maintaining my 4-mile-per-hour pace. And then I jogged an extra mile, and I maintained a good time, about 11 minutes and maybe 20 seconds. So my jog time is still on par with that back in New York. So that was very exciting to see the altitude hasn't affected me yet. I still had a transmission leak in the car, and I still had to figure out how to fix it. Now, I had identified the problem as the seal gone bad, where the CV axle plugs into the vehicle. I lacked the proper tools to do the job myself. Luckily, a friend of mine in Colorado had a few connections. So I set for Colorado about a week before what was originally planned, and I head down to Monument, Colorado, where my friend John lives. There he introduced me to a mechanic friend of his who was a very gracious man who opened up his garage to me. He requested not to be shown on the vlog, so I will respect that. He did let me take some photos of what he had done. So here's the photo of the tire off and the CV axle out, and you can see right where the seal would go in. This man was a master mechanic who knocked it out in no time. He also rotated my tires for me and looked at a few other issues. So the car is holding up for now. The starter ate $140 into the travel fund, and I have to be extra careful with the money now because the money's a lot shorter than what it was supposed to be. The trip to Colorado was beneficial because, one, I was able to get the car at least road ready again, but also I got to test myself in the altitude again. My friend John recommended doing a hike at a certain place. Now, since I started this fitness journey of mine, I have not hiked any real inclines. I've only done flat surfaces. The laps back in New York, the 20-mile day, that was all on flat surfaces. So it was time to test how I would do on an incline while I was in a higher altitude, at the higher elevation. So what better place to attempt my incline hike? Well, than the actual Incline in Manitou, Colorado. This touristy place is the home of the Incline. It's less than a mile to the top, as John calls it, the Stairmaster from hell. A lot of people come to this from all over the world, a lot of athletes, Olympic athletes, people from all walks of life do it. It's a real challenging hike, and maybe one of the more challenging ones in the country, so it was time to test the mettle of me. When I got to the base of the hike, I was ready to start my journey. I brought the GoPro with me to grab some footage. As I was walking up what felt like this infinite stairway, it was physically exhausting. It was less than a mile for the walk. This, by far, is the longest time it has taken me to walk a mile ever, I think. It was so rewarding, though. I mean, I stopped and caught my breath a lot. It wasn't the altitude, it was the physical draining of doing it. Just the repetitive steps, going. You know, I'd get 50 steps, I'd get 100 steps, I'd stop. People were walking by me thinking I was half dead. I was like, no, I will push through. Now, I'm not trying to make myself sound all hardcore, because there was an old woman and her granddaughter that we were going neck and neck for a while. So I wasn't exactly the star athlete, but it was still an amazing accomplishment. This was something that I was not capable of doing months ago. And the fact that I was able to achieve it was just extraordinary. It was beautiful up there. And then it was time for the walk down. Now, there was another way to go down instead of going down the actual incline. This was a much longer hiking trail that kind of winded down the mountain. It was full of beautiful scenery. I grabbed some more shots with the GoPro. Now, unfortunately, something happened to where some of the footage didn't come, it was just audio. I don't know what the issue was with that. Hopefully I can figure that out. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. The hike was magnificent. Walking back to the car was one of the most satisfying feelings I've ever had. I met these wonderful people that were in town, I believe for a wedding. Oh, they were in town for a family reunion and decided to hike the incline that day. So it was a lot of fun hiking up the incline with them. They were really, really wonderful people. This upcoming week, I'm facing some pretty bad weather in Colorado. So I might be stuck in Cheyenne, Wyoming, doing more of the altitude training. But there is still plenty of stuff for me to do here. Now, this upcoming week, there are a couple of days where the weather should be stable. So as long as the car is running fine. as long as the finances are holding in place, I will be heading to Estes Park in this next week, and I will be doing the lower part of Longs Peak or some other hiking trails. I would like to thank my now 154 subscribers. I appreciate the new subscribers. I thank the old subscribers. That's going to wrap things up for this week. I will be back here next week with another updated post. But in the meantime, please check out my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Facebook, because I will be posting stuff on there throughout the course of the week. I want to thank everyone for watching again, and have a fantastic week.